Welcome to another episode of Hiring and Empowering Solutions. My name is Molly McGrath, and I am the founder of this revolutionary office altering podcast. I'm so excited to have our guest today, Jeffery Bellomo from York, Pennsylvania. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Molly, how are you doing?
Oh, good. Oh, I love that you have your law firm shirt on as well. That's awesome. Did
Of
you know
course.
that? Was it intentional?
No, it wasn't.
You should have said yes. Your marketing team wants you to say yes. Of course it was.
And of course it's blue too, right? I mean, of
Yeah.
course it had to be blue. Bellomo blue.
That's awesome. So I have known Jeff for, so how many years now since you joined LWP? What was it?
09 I joined, right?
Oh, 09.
So, yeah, so 10 years.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You and
More
Susan.
than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were within, a couple of months of each other. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love that. So Jeff and I have known each other since 09, sitting here at 2020, unbelievable. And
Hard to believe.
yeah, and Jeff has an amazing law firm in York, Pennsylvania, and I've had the privilege of actually being to his office, and it's absolutely beautiful, inviting, welcoming. If any of your clients have listened to this podcast, they can attest that. You see all your social engagement with your pictures of your office. I highly recommend, and I'll put it in the show notes, that you actually follow Jeff on social media. Roz and I talk about this all the time, Jeff, your engagement and your sharing and what your community, it's just like sitting in your living room, looking at your social media, especially on Facebook, and how much you share there. Listeners, team, attorney alike, please, I highly recommend that you look at Jeff as truly the poster child for how to create such an inviting practice.
I always get nervous when I hear that, but it's fun. We enjoy it. And a lot of those posts are actually me, and I'll lay in bed at night and respond personally and try to engage as much as I possibly can. Just that's who I am as a person. So it's just fun. I try to treat people as I would want to be treated, and business is the exact same way. And we just try to get as much information out as we possibly can. So.
Yeah. And in your vulnerability that you share too. You'll see Jeff and his wife, Whitney, on a cruise, and oh gosh, you have to go watch some of these videos where Jeff's doing the worm. And I just love your vulnerability and your just sharing who you are as a human and as a father, as a husband and an attorney. It's just, you just have the perfect blend there.
Yeah. I think sometimes as attorneys, there's this stigma or persona, I'm not even sure what to call it, that we believe we are supposed to follow, and we believe we're supposed to be a certain way. And I remember vividly the first time that I was going to post something, just a personal thing, something personal. And my wife said, are you sure? You sure you want to post that? What if people think that, oh, gee, maybe Jeff shouldn't have done that? And I said, well, I don't think I want to work with him then. If you don't want all of me, and you don't want who I am as a person, and the fact that I like to, do things on stage and have fun and make fun of myself, and I like to do that stuff, then I don't think you want to work with this Jeff. And I think that's okay. So just be you and be truthful to yourself. And that's what I always say. And I started there. And then of course now I post everything. I believe that you are your personal life as well as your professional life. To me, they're one and the same. And so yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. And I know today we're having a coffee clutch. So I know our topic is about really why attorneys and why your clients want you to follow the system. But we're having a conversation. So let me ask you a question before we dive into that. Since you've been vulnerable and really sharing who you are and took that courageous step to, you have Whitney saying, are you sure? And you're like, yeah. And then now you share more. And now you're just, it's not even, it's just natural for you to share. Do you see your clients coming in and saying like, oh God, I love seeing you on social media? Do you notice people really in making a difference in the quality of clients that you're bringing? Not quality, but just, that they are already coming in softened, their barriers are down, and they're like, this is a real human. And I feel like I already have a relationship with you because of what I witness on social media.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, I've seen it probably the most with existing clients who, when they refer other clients or friends or family, you know, they'll say, "You're gonna love this guy. You know, wait till you see him do the worm. Wait till you." And this is my attorney. He's like us. He's one of us. And so I've definitely seen it there. I've only had one negative comment from a prospect who found us on the internet, and he was like, "Yeah, I think that's a big show." And I said, "You know what? If that's how you feel, I respect that. You know, we don't have to agree. I share my personal life, and I happen to be fun. And when my daughter asks me to do something silly, the chances are I'm going to do it. And I hope that you're okay with that, because if she's going to ask me, I'm going to do it. But other than that, yeah, man, people seem to love it. And I think it breaks down that barrier of the stigma of going to a lawyer's office, sitting down for the first time. I think they immediately see, whether it be the social media stuff or watching a workshop, and they see how laid back we are in a workshop. Getting that barrier broken down before they come in, I think, is huge. And however you do it, you know, certainly there's a lot of different ways to break that barrier. You know, there are definitely attorneys who I think like the barrier. I think that they like that persona, but that's just not me personally. So why would I pretend? Why would I be something I'm not? So
Yeah, and owning your story and who you are. And like you said, if you, for you, it's a, 10,000 pound marble desk and the tie up to the neck, and that's who you are, that's
do
great.
it.
Then that's the
Do it.
type of client you'll, I love that. You only have one. And as you were talking, you have one person who had a negative comment. And it's almost like, well, it's not even a negative comment. They self-selected out, and that's great. You did me a favor, because
Well, and
I'm probably
actually,
not your attorney.
no, and actually, he did ended up hiring us. It
Oh.
was actually just a comment that he made in that first meeting, the vision meeting. He just said, "I want you to know that I hesitated about coming in because of all of that. It seemed too much like a show. It seemed too much like you were
Oh.
worried about what people thought about you, and that you wanted people to think a certain thing. And but I did other research, and I saw that you're, really well respected, and that, your peers feel the same way. And so I don't know. It was a backhanded, double-sided compliment, I guess, with a slap in the side of the head to go with it. But no, he ultimately hired us, and turned out to be a pretty decent client. But I think in all the years that we've been as open as we have, only having one slightly negative, and that person ending up hiring us, it's pretty good. I'm a little surprised that it's being received as well as it is, but you know what? Either way, it wouldn't have mattered, because that's who I am. So I would rather them self-select out. And maybe there are people I never even got to meet with because they self-selected out before they came in. But I think that's equally as important, if not more important. So
Yeah. You and I can never, ever have a conversation without talking about marketing. So, and systems and process and all that jazz. But as you were talking, I love it, because you have your humanness out there on social media, but then you also, he does research. He goes to your website, he sees your blogs, he sees your workshops, he sees your testimonials from your clients. And it's like this perfect branding package, intentional, non-intentional, that you have, all facets of it out there. So I love that he communicated that and gave you that gift of saying, I hesitated. However, I did my research, because he probably is an engineer, analytical type, and went and did the research. And, it was enough evidence here that I could go forward. And I love that. I think it's a
yeah,
perfect package, right?
yeah, it really worked out well. Um, and it ties perfectly into today. I mean, I think that systems and processes, or following your plan, whatever your plan is, uh, it has to have different facets to it. It can't be just one thing. It has to be a bunch of different things, and stick to your plan. And once you have a plan, whatever it is, make sure you follow it, make sure you do it. And that's my marketing. That was one piece of a decision that we made, but we've never altered from it. We've never wavered. And that's, to me, the key of what the conversation that we're having today.
Yeah. And as you were saying that, I'm like, once you follow the systems and you get them in place, I feel like, even if you're a quick star or an entrepreneurial type, or, very highly innovative, like you are, you're not, systems don't come natural to you, but you understand that they serve as a safety net for you. They allow you to have your own back, for your team to have your back, for you to have your team back. And once you kind of get through that resistance, and you're like, all right. And then it becomes habit, which was
Yeah.
in 2009, 2010, what have you. And you're sitting here 10 years later, what have you. Now it allows you to be like, okay, now I can be, human. Now I
Yeah.
don't have to worry about, I think so often, you know, entrepreneurs, they're in a subconscious way, they're afraid to get business because they're like, oh, can I deliver on the promise? I see people kind of self-sabotage a little bit where, they get one, two, three clients, and then they're like, all right, put the brakes on everything because I'm not sure we can handle it. And it's almost like that time to make the donuts commercial I always think of. You take the order, and then you run them back, and then you got to make the donuts, and then you come
Yeah.
out, and there's no one left standing in line to order. And I think a lot of times that it's, whether it's conscious, unconscious, what have you, it's because you're afraid that you're not going to be able to deliver on it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's no question. I mean, I remember a really good mutual friend of ours years and years and years ago. He said, Jeff, you need systems and processes. That I can guarantee you. You need them for bringing business in. You need them for making sure that the work gets done appropriately. So whether it be attraction, retention, process, whatever, you need systems and processes. So you have two choices. You can buy them or you can create them. And anyone who knows me knows that I'm a 9 quick start. I just lead, I love to come up with new ideas. But coming up with systems and processes is not within my wheelhouse. And what it does is it allows my team to know that we're going to have system results. We're going to get predictable, consistent results. It allows the clients to know that every part through the process, I can guarantee what's going to happen. I know what the next step is. I know what my team's going to do because we are 100% systems and processes driven. And that's just one less thing I had to create, which I wouldn't have been able to personally, but I have them. And then I, of course, tweak them to make sure that they were comfortable for me. And then as a team, we all buy into them to make sure that way we can protect each other, but also the clients.
Yeah. Yeah. So you buy the systems, and you get them in place. And I love what you said. Then you bring them, you enroll your team, and
Yeah.
you're like, and I'll just picture knowing you and knowing a 9 quick start of that, so often a 9 quick start will go to the conference and meet this cool organization, buy the binder, come back, throw it on the team's desk and be like, you got to implement this. We're implementing this today. We're changing everything that we do. And then you as an entrepreneur are the biggest violator of all of it, right?
Yeah.
Typically.
Yeah. Yeah. No question. And I think that's a big reason why a lot of my friends who have tried national organizations failed, because they go to the event themselves. They don't bring the team members with them. They come back, they throw the binder on the desk, and then they don't follow it. Whereas with us, we had our team member there in that very first event. Tammy is with us from day one, and she was in the room, and she was the one who brought the binder back, who threw it on the desk, who said, we're implementing this and you're going to like it or not. And it was the single best thing ever. I mean, I would say to any attorney out there, if you want to succeed, find a team member who will buy in and have them hold you accountable. And if you can find somebody that you have that relationship with, that you allow them permission to hold you accountable, it will change your life. And to this day, I mean, Tammy is still with us. Tammy is still our lead cheerleader when it comes to LWP and to following systems and processes. Every week in our team meetings, she's still the one who is finishing this manual or that manual and holding us all accountable to following it. But you need that champion on your team. You need somebody with you. To think that you can do it yourself, or to think that you can just throw a binder on somebody's desk and then violate it, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And having her pushing us and having her seeing the power and just buying into it 100% and saying, holy crap, this is going to change. I mean, she had been in other law firms at that point, probably 15 to 20 years. And she was like, well, this is like game changing. This is life changing to know what everybody is supposed to be doing. And there's actually a system around bringing business in. There's actually a system around getting the work done. There's a system around getting paid. There's a system around notarizing. Are you kidding me? Like, it's not just the wild, wild west and everybody does what they need to do to get it done. Here's a manual. This is exactly how you're supposed to do it. So I would encourage you out there to bring your team, include them in it, empower them in the decision-making process, but ultimately whatever system and process you choose, make sure they're on board with it.
Hmm. I love it. You use that word permission. And as you know, I was there through your whole journey and
Yeah.
meeting you and meeting Tammy. And I love Tammy. Tammy's like me, she's a production cop. She's
Mhm.
the, and that she knew you. So you bring her there, right?
Yeah.
So attorneys and team listening, even if you're a team member and you're listening and you don't have systems and process, or you're struggling with getting your attorney or any other attorneys or any team members in your practice to follow a system, and you feel like it. I love that wild, wild west. You feel like every day is a wild, wild west. Then it's time for the pause and the permission for the pause, and to be like, all right, we got to stop, drop, and roll here and figure out, because, as you're talking, Jeff, I'm just thinking you bring Tammy, and Tammy's like, okay, we're buying this, we're drinking the LWP Kool-Aid, and and you're like, yeah, it's great, you're excited about it too. You're like, sure, if you're on board, you're going to implement this suite, because then I'm off the hook and I get to just be with clients in the conference room and have confidence that we're delivering on our promise. And then she comes back and then she starts, you have a team meeting or however this looks, a retreat, you sit down, you start unpacking it, you start doing 2 millimeter shifts along the way of how we do our, between design and sign and things like that. And I'm just sitting here listening to you, and I'm thinking of a client, you're a client, and for clients, it's not like you bought this franchise or package system where it's like LegalZoom, where it's just plug and play. That's not the essence of this at all. It's quite the opposite. It's very, very complex. Like
Yeah.
to implement this system, right? It's a lot, and it's always, always there for your clients. And this, what I want everyone to take away from this: put yourself in the seat of a client, and why a client wants you to have a system and process, because they want to know what to expect on the journey. As human beings, we want to know what the beginning, the middle, the end is, what we can expect, why people, I don't, why people. I'll tell you, back in 1997, we did a survey of all clients and what they don't like about attorneys. And guess what the number one reason was? Not that they're too expensive, not that they're snake oil salesmen, not that they're blah, blah, blah. It's that they don't follow up.
Ah,
They,
oh,
that we they don't return our phone calls. We don't get our documents. We don't know what. I mean, that's it. It's that
yeah.
simple. And we have a story in our head that they think that we're too expensive, and blah, blah. They're like, no, I will pay you all day long if you can deliver on your promises, right, Jeff?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Mo, you just nailed it. And I'd never really put the pieces together. We, in our probate side, our Medicaid side, we hand out, whenever a person hires us, we hand them a guide. And we
Mm,
say, thank you for the confidence in hiring our firm. We're going to provide you a guide that's going to tell you what to expect, what your responsibilities are, what ours are, what the timeline looks like, what the expectations are. And ever since we've done that, I have noticed the complaints and the negativity has all but stopped, because, like you just said, they just want to know that it's going to be done. They want to know what's next. They want to know what to expect. What are the expectations? And if it's going to take 9 months to get an appraisement back from the Department of Revenue, if you tell them it's going to take 9 months, they're okay with that.
mm-hmm.
But if you don't tell them that up front, and 4 months go by and they want to know why the heck they haven't heard from the law firm, that creates a lot of angst and a lot of anxiety, which easily can be avoided. And now it's hitting me, those guides that we're handing to the clients, that becomes their Bible. That becomes the thing that they walk into our office, tucked under their arm, because that's the playbook. That's the guide. And I think that's huge, is just setting the expectations and then following it. So it's not just setting them. I guess that's an interesting point, but you have to then follow up. I mean, we have a rule internally, if there's an email or a call, we must respond within 1 business day. And that doesn't mean that you have this final answer, but that means that you acknowledge them, you tell them that you received it, and that you will get them an answer by a certain date, and you will then follow through with it. And as long as you do that, clients love it. And that goes back to the systems and processes. You can't make those promises if you don't have systems and processes in place. There's no way. There's no way.
I love that. The guide. I mean, think of your clients. If you get this guide of what the process is, and they don't care if it's 9 months. I love that your firm is outlining that. I even think of myself. I told you, I'm on vacation, and we're in a canyon at the border of Utah and Colorado. And as you were saying that guide, I was thinking about this because we're doing this podcast, and I love to do podcasts on my recordings on my vacation because I'm clear. I have systems and process with my team, and I know everything's handled. So I get to be fully, wholly present. I get to be creative, innovative, things of that nature. But I'm thinking about that. So this morning I go out for my walk or what have you, and I was going to take this trail. And oh my gosh, I'm goosebumps just even using this analogy in reference to your guide. And I turned around. It's sunrise. There's animals. We're in Colorado. I didn't have a trail map. And so I turned around and I just took a safe route versus where I really wanted to go. And so because I didn't have a map, I didn't have a guide. Had I had a guide, I would have gotten on that trail. So to your point, like if you can even think of it like that for your clients, they're not going to just go hike the mountains without a map. They're not just going to, get on an estate planning or a probate journey or a Medicaid journey, if not to know what to expect. The beginning, the middle, the end. Here's what you can expect from us. Here's what we expect from you. People want, they want safety. They want to know that they're protected. They want to know what the journey is. And when you can outline that, so now you have a system, you have the guide, you give it to the client, upfront expectations on every front. I can only assert that your client phone calls, emails, communication, because you probably say this to your team. If a client's reaching out to us, we're in trouble because we've already violated our system. They shouldn't have to reach out to us because we haven't planned we haven't showed them what to expect. They're calling you, what about this? What about that? And then everybody gets anxious because they're like, and upset, and that becomes a breakdown in the communication in the office, right?
Definitely. And I'll tell you the one thing, and I find this more in the Medicaid crisis side than anything, is even though we have the system, we have the workshop, we have the guide, we tell them in 3 different meetings exactly what's going to happen. We're very systematized. Sometimes in those moments, people are so overwhelmed that they're not hearing you. Regardless of how many times you're telling them, they don't hear you, and they then go home. And then they do call because they don't remember to look at the guide, or they don't remember what you said in those 3 meetings. But I'll tell you, within a minute and a half, 2 minutes on the phone, when you remind them of the guide and remind them to check back and where we are in the process, and it alleviates so much stress. But it did take me a while to understand, just because you tell somebody something 3 times, whether it be in a workshop, in a client meeting, they're not always going to remember that, because either somebody just died, somebody's going to a nursing home. They have so much stress and anxiety in their life that the more built into the system that you have to communicate automated, the better. The more reminder letters, the reminder phone calls for appointments, or things that you can build into the system that are just automated, that are going to help people. You're never going to get somebody upset for too much communication, ever. It's not going to happen. So give them what they want, and then give them the tools to fall back on in their hand, the guide. And those are all things that will provide consistent, predictable results for the clients, and the client experience will be that much better. But also then your referral sources. I mean, your referral sources love that from the very first meeting when I meet with them, I can tell them, look, if you refer a client, this is exactly what their situation is going to look like, or what their experience is going to be. And I walk them from beginning through end, because I know what it's going to look like. Probate, here it is. Medicaid, here it is. Pre-planning, here it is. And referral sources love the predictability. They love the consistency, because they're getting beat up by their, they send a referral over, they get beat up by their clients. The attorney didn't return my phone call. The attorney didn't this, the attorney didn't that. But to know that it's built into the system, that reminder calls are built in, the guides are built in, the way that the process works. And whatever system you pick, I mean, like we said earlier, you can buy one or you can create one. But whichever you choose, make sure you follow it and make sure you do it to a T for sure.
Mm.
And the one thing I want to say, just because I don't want to run out of time, if you're sitting there as an attorney saying, I can't afford this, you can't afford not to. And I don't want to overlook that conversation that Molly had earlier. Now I'm getting goosebumps. That conversation that Molly had earlier about in 2009, remembering me coming and remember bringing Tammy. I had no money. I literally took money out on a line of credit and didn't know how I was going to pay it off. And in hindsight, I sort of chuckle about the decision that I made, but I think it was that I believed in myself 100% and I knew that I would succeed, but I also knew that I wouldn't succeed without the systems and processes. So don't allow the fear or don't allow the, well, I can't afford it right now, because I can tell you without systems and processes, you're not going to make it, and you can't afford not to have them. You can't afford not to invest in them and to get your team to buy into them. And so it was the biggest success of my life, making that decision to do it. And it would have been very easy to not do it because of money.
Oh, yeah. And to know, like, and I know you, Jeff, I mean, you're like one of my best friends. I just adore you and your firm and everything that you stand for and your family. And I know you that deep down, it was also like, I know I can't serve my clients the way that I want to without this system. And this system
100%.
is for me, yes. For my team, yes, but ultimately, and I know that every decision you make is always with the client experience because you want to deliver on the systems and process, right?
Yeah. I think it's hard for attorneys in particular to be comfortable or being willing to write a check for that because it's not tangible. And it's so important, if not the most important, client experience and predictability and results I think are how you're going to build a reputation and how you're going to build a practice, taking care of them. But that doesn't happen if you don't have systems and processes. So what I hear people saying is well, I don't have the money right now and I'll figure it out. No, you're not. And if you do figure it out, it's going to take away so much time and energy from what you could have been focused on, which is the client experience. And it would have been easy not to bring Tammy. It would have been so easy to say, well, I'll go, but I can't afford to bring her. But I wouldn't have succeeded if she wasn't in the room. I know that. I don't have too big of an ego to admit that.
I'll go and then I'll just debrief her and I'll just share everything that I learned over 5 days and enroll her into it, which never works. I mean, first of all, you're a 9 quick start. You're not going to remember everything. You're going to come with the bullet points and she's going to have 7,000 questions and you're not going to be able to answer them. And it's just highly ineffective. I really, truly cannot let one comment you just say go. You will never upset clients with over communicating with them and communicating with them too much. I can't tell you. So if you could leave one nugget I'm going to ask you a value bomb, if you will, for 3 different people, the attorney, the team member, and then the client here. But for the team member, let's start with that on that comment, because I hear from client services and team members all the time. We don't want to bother clients. We don't want to, we feel like we send them too many emails or too many phone calls or what have you. And quite the opposite. I hear from people that I know myself when I call clients in a law firm, the number one thing they say is, thank you. Like nobody ever calls anymore, especially professionals. So what would be a value bomb or a nugget of wisdom that you would leave for the employees in regards to why it's important to enforce systems and process from your attorney and to invest in them and take an unwavering stand to get them in their law firm?
I think first and foremost, they are the most important person, more than the attorney, more than the business owner or the entrepreneur. They're having that one-on-one relationship. They're really the firm. I mean, they're really the client experience at the end of the day. We really, as the attorney, have minimal contact with the clients. I mean, certainly we may do the first meeting or the, maybe the last meeting in some cases, but from that point forward, it's the client the team member who is going to completely take over that experience. And I don't care how good you are or how friendly you are. You need to know exactly what's going to happen. You need to not only know what you're going to be doing, but what other team members around you are going to be doing. Because if you're the one looking that client in the eye, telling them that this is the result they're going to get, you want to be confident that that's the result they're going to get. And the only way that you're going to be able to know that is if everybody else around you is on the same playbook and they're following the same guide, they're following the same rules, the same belief systems, the same buy-in, the same everything. And only then can you look someone in the eye and tell them that this is what's going to happen. And so I think you're the most important person. You're the key to the entire thing working for the client, because you're going to be the liaison. You're going to be the enforcer, the follow through, to make sure that that's the experience. And I agree. I don't think you can ever communicate too much and set an expectation up front. Once an expectation is set, even if you have to remind somebody of what it was, once you remind them, they'll acknowledge it. And particularly if it's in writing, right? If it's in a guide or if it's in something that you're giving them, and it'll diffuse the entire situation, allowing you as the team member the ability to know that you're coming through on your promises and that you're giving the experience of the client that you want them to have, and that the team and the rest of the firm wants them to have as well.
Mm. Yeah. And as we move on to your wisdom nugget for the attorneys, I want to just piggyback on that real quick and just say, attorneys, that's why, you really want to invest in a system, because your staff members are the ones that are getting the phone calls. And then they're got to go to you to get the answer. And then they got to figure out where we're at with this document or what have you. And they don't like not having the answer for the client. They want to be able to touch it once, be able to deliver to the client, and feel very confident that they can say, absolutely, Tuesday at this time, what have you. And they don't like bothering you. I hear this from team members all the time. I know how busy the attorney is. I don't want to bother them, what have you. And it's just so inefficient. And then, anytime you have a conversation, especially a hallway conversation, especially when emotions are high, etc., that's where all the breakdown occurs.
Yeah. And I'll say to the attorneys, a couple of weeks ago, I was on a call with a client who was upset about something that had occurred in the probate process. And I just kept anchoring them back to the guide. I kept anchoring them back to the handwritten documents that we had given them. And I said, I'm shocked, because this is what we say in the first meeting. This is what we say in the second meeting. This is what the guide says. I'm looking at the guide right now, and I read it verbatim. And the client actually acknowledged, yeah, actually, that is what happened. I'm sorry. I forgot, and it not that I'm doing it because I want to be right. I don't want to be right, but I want to make sure that the team is following it, and they do, because they buy into it. So when I'm hearing a client upset about something that I know directly violates our guide, I think, I'm shocked. I mean, I'm not saying we're perfect, but following a guide is something that we're pretty good about. And so it also then gives the attorneys what great leverage. And I wasn't accusing, I was just saying, I'm surprised, and here's why. And ultimately she was like, wow, you're right. That's exactly what happened. Yeah, wow, that's incredible. And she became one of our biggest cheerleaders, because she loved the idea that it was so predictable and so consistent. Yeah, she lost her way and she forgot and she got angry with us. But when I was able to show her in the guide that it says, this is what's going to happen, and that's exactly what happened, she kind of chuckled at herself. But what a great tool. Had I not had that guide, I would have been wrong, because it's her word versus mine. It's her word versus my team members. Being able to show the guide and say, the guide says you're going to not hear from us for 4 to 5 to 6 months because we're waiting. Well, I didn't hear from you. Yeah, I know, because we're waiting on the appraisement. So don't underestimate the power of that, of having something in writing. Now, make sure you follow it. If you're going to give something out, you better follow it.
I love that you said that for the attorney. So what I heard you say, Jeff, is that, you have this guide, again, system and a process, something to anchor to you. You're going to get clients. We're going to have breakdowns in system, process, communication, what have you. But what I love about you just visualizing, sitting as a client talking to you and referencing, going back to the guide, you're not showing up righteous. You don't want to be right. And you're allowed to have a conversation without emotion. So nobody's heated. It's just, okay, let's sit down. Let's look at the guide here. Let's go back to the process. And even if, step one was that you're not going to hear from us 4 to 6 months, and it's 7 months, and you're like, oh, you're right. It's 7 months. Now you know where the breakdown is because you have a system and in process, and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm so grateful for this guide. And thank you, client, for showing us where we might have missed a step. But at the end of the day, even if you guys did screw up, even if you didn't, nobody's upset because you're like, oh, yeah, okay, wow, thank you for sharing that with us. All right, now let me go back to my team, make sure this doesn't happen for anyone else again, figure out where the breakdown is, and let's get back on track.
And guess what we automated? Once a month, a letter gets generated automatically that just says, we're still in a holding pattern. As the guide says, we will not hear anything. Please know that we're here for you if you need anything whatsoever. It automatically generates the letter. Person signs it, puts it in the mail now once a month, so they're getting a touch. Even though the guide doesn't say they will, I believe there's never too much communication. So because of that client complaint, we added an automated letter that just goes out once a month, and it just says the same thing, but at least it's a touch.
Oh, great. As you were saying that, just one sidebar coaching thing, I think you should even give them a magnet with a clip and have them put that guide on the refrigerator and say, put this on your refrigerator on the sidebar when you're drinking your coffee, and you could just reference it and just follow us along on the journey.
Yeah. Amen.
All right. Quickly, in closing, what would be one tip you would leave for a client in regards to when you're hiring an attorney and or a professional, and you want to, because it's a big decision, it's a scary decision, to be able to discern and be able to recognize if a law firm does have systems and process in place for their to serve as a safety net and to lay out the whole journey for them. What would you say would be one kind of area where they can notice if it's kind of a systematized practice?
I think the key is the referral. Listen to what the person that's referring you to the company says. I mean, are they saying, they called a lot, there was a lot of communication, there was a lot of follow-up, there were no drop balls. Those are key words, because in a lot of law firms, getting a return phone call in one business day is unheard of. I mean, I know for a fact that I referred a friend of mine to another law firm, and I mean, there would be 2-3 months that would go by and she would not hear anything, and she would send 7 or 8 emails. And I just am so upset with my profession that somehow becomes acceptable. And so I don't think it would be hard to figure it out. I mean, if your referral source is telling you that they're not getting calls back promptly, or that they didn't hear, that will be a key red flag that they're not following systems and processes. I think it would be difficult to ask the law firm, because I think, of course, they're going to say, well, yes, we have them, but just listening to what other people say about them, or to what the client experience was, I think is huge. And in those meetings, the first meeting, if they don't lay out exactly what's going to happen, what are the costs, what's it going to look like, how's it going to feel, what are your expectations, what are their expectations, that's a red flag. And I think that you should pay attention to that, which is why in those first meetings, we try to lay all that out so that they can see that there is a clear path and plan for exactly where we're headed.
I love that. Thank you. And just even little language, like, here's what you can expect. Here's step 1. First, we're going to do this. Then you're going to do that. Even when you're calling in to schedule your appointment, or you're interacting for the first time with the law firm or the profession, pay attention to words like that. That'll really indicate you hear team-centric approach. I'm going to do this. The attorney's going to do that. You're going to, and I love that. And that's a way to know if they're operating from a place of a system, or, they open your file and then you don't hear from them. I cannot thank you enough, Jeff. I know you have a client meeting to run to, and I really, oh my goodness, I'm deeply, deeply grateful for the wisdom that you have left here for both the attorney as well as the client, in addition to the employees. This has been an amazing episode, and so far one of my favorite.
Thank you, Molly. I always love seeing your face and catching up, and I wish everybody that's listening to this nothing but the best, and believe in your systems and processes and follow them, and good things will happen. For
Yeah,
sure.
Jeff has coined, I can't end this episode without saying it. FDS, follow the damn
Right.
system. He coined that, and he even at one retreat that we had, everyone they were wearing T-shirts that said that, Bellomo, FDS, just
Right.
follow the damn system.
Right. It's a simple concept, but man, it's powerful.
Yes. Okay, thank you so
And
much, Jeff,
remember,
for being our
Molly,
guest.
I'll part your ways with this comment. Follow the damn system. You don't have to like it. You just have to do it.
Oh, yes. All right.
Have
Have
a
a
good
great
one.
client meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly.
All
Have a
right.
great day.
You too. Bye.